All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining the CRM COE Roundtable. Today, we are going to discuss marketing technology stack and the CRM technology. As a COE leader, how do you educate the COE leader, specifically in evaluating and managing marketing technology stack to align with your current CRM platform? That's the purpose of this roundtable discussion. I truly appreciate all of you joining, and it's going to be a fun event. We have very, very smart people. I'm so glad that I found the right panelists, so I don't have to work hard. And I just want to thank Amy in advance for Jayneel for giving us the content for this presentation. Very, very useful and thankful for that. JB, I know you're signing in from 10,000 miles or 7,000 miles away. Thank you for joining, and I appreciate in the early morning for you to join. Stella, you're always smiling and bringing a lot of energy to the table. I appreciate joining from Michigan. So before we get started, I want to introduce the panel. And before me introducing, I would like you to introduce yourself. I'll start with Amy, JB, Stella, and Jayneel. So Amy, you want to go first?
Sure. Thank you, Vilu, so much for the opportunity to connect with you, to connect with these amazing panelists, and to connect with your audience. It's exciting to talk about this. So my name is Amy Cook. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer at Simplus, an Infosys company. It's a privilege to work with the Infosys team and the Simplus team and help deliver business solutions through the Salesforce platform. My background is I have a bachelor's and master's in English, a PhD in communication, and ran a marketing agency for about 12 years. And then I came on to Simplus and gained so much more richness and context in terms of how marketing and CRM works together to deliver really awesome business objectives for our clients. That's just a short bit about me. And I have 5 beautiful kids, great husband, and trying to get everyone through college.
Good luck to you, Amy. Thank you, Amy. JB, you want to go next?
Yes. Hello, everyone. This is Jyothsna Bitra. I go by the name JB. I am a Salesforce Marketing Cloud Architect and 16 times certified application architect. I'm a marketing champion and a Golden Hoodie recipient. I've been in the ecosystem for around 10 plus years and in the marketing cloud for around 5 years. And that with an overall IT industry experience of 17 years. I'm the founder and the co-leader of the Salesforce Marketers Group Phoenix, and also the founder of the Impact Force and the Marketing Cloud Learning Camp. I have conducted various boot camps to help people learn Marketing Cloud and clear their certifications. I love helping and getting people up to the speed and helping them land in their jobs. And as part of that, I have conducted various BA multiplier sessions where I introduced Salesforce to homemakers or some people who wanted to make a career switch, and then help them learn Salesforce, clear their certifications, and land in their first jobs. And I love contributing and giving back to the community, and I always try to be active and find ways to give back to the community. And I'm very honored to be part of this panel, and I'm excited to be along with other panelists.
Thank you, JB. Stella?
I'm the unfortunate one to follow up on such a good intro. So I'm Stella Michael. I am the director for CRM applications and platforms at Spectrum Health, which is an integrated healthcare system in West Michigan. So we do have the health plan and care delivery system, and my teams oversee both areas. I'm very passionate about connecting capabilities to people problems and see it from the lens of our consumers. So very driven by customer value and customer obsessed, you can call. In my time outside of work, I'm very active in the community, trying to support our AAPI communities and in vulnerable populations for education, empowerment, and healthcare. Very active internally in my workplace, doing the same, but also being an advocate for women in their rights and their voice. And so other than that, I'm also a mom of 3 kids. I am currently pursuing a class which is called Leadership Grand Rapids. It's a class that picks 40 people in the city of Grand Rapids and in surrounding areas to train them into transitioning into community trustees. So I'm really excited learning more about my community and continuing to do more. So that's about me.
Thank you, Stella. JV?
Sure, thank you, Belu. So deeply humbled to be in presence of such great panelists here. So my name is Janil Patel. I work at Simplus as the VP of Center of Excellence for HLS, Healthcare Life Science. It gives me an opportunity to provide deep servant leadership on anything and everything HLS to the community and to our company. My background happens to be in engineering. I have a doctorate in engineering and then also MBA from Duke. And my career started in the financial sector, working in Wall Street, designing solutions there. And something about it did not, everything checked off. I just don't feel one thing was that I just wasn't sleeping well at night. Slowly transitioned to HLS, and I feel the empathy driven approach to things and making it very patient centric allowed me to feel very satisfied in terms of the work and the impact that we're able to bring to the community. So, so I'm very honored to be here today.
Thank you, JV. Appreciate your introduction. So my name is Veda Palani, and I'm based here in Chicago. I run the CRM COE. The main goal for this initiative is to help people in the CRM space, especially who are running the COE side of it, help them to organize, understand, share thought leadership, and then make sure that learn from each other. And then the COE is a very loosely defined term. So many companies have challenges. So we are trying to bring the COE leaders together and help each other to learn the way the COE should be run. I'm based here in Chicago, as I said, and I work for a company called HCSC, and I run their Salesforce platform, very large ecosystem, and we are constantly challenged with many challenges as you all have it. So, and I've been working with the Salesforce ecosystem for about 21 years. I started in 2000, and I probably sound old, but I probably don't know much about anything other than Salesforce. Even Salesforce, I'm learning. There's so much out there. Anybody who says that I know Salesforce, probably they have to rethink about what they said. Too many things to learn. And I've been working with the healthcare for about last 4 years. So I'm really excited to work to go through the CRM and marketing technology. So we will get that started quickly. Let me share the screen. Just give me 1 second. Today's topic is going to be very interesting, as I said. The discussion that the topics for today, the CRM marketing tech discussion. So the agenda, as you see here, business and technology alignment overview, the state of marketing technology. How do you prepare your organization? It's you understand the technology stack. How do you prepare your organization for next generation marketing technology stack? And how do you organize yourself as a COE leader? And if you're a COE leader, how do you do an ongoing support and audit? So we will take some time to do a Q&A, and then let's get started. Okay, so this is first topic here is business and technology alignment. So our as we see here, COE around marketing technology in conjunction with CRM. And when we look at the presentation here, thanks to Amy, marketing and sales is so interconnected. If you see on the right side, CRM, left side, you see marketing platform. And then many organizations realize this. This is so important that we need to be aligned. But when it comes to implementing and executing, they all have challenges. Sometimes they even fail. The challenge is probably an understated statement, but they do fail. But it costs a lot of money and it creates a lot of problems. So I want to ask this question to Amy. Understanding of the business and technology alignment is important for COE leaders. So I understand, I go through this. In your perspective, why is this so important?
Thanks, Velu. I appreciate that. So let me ask you guys a couple of questions first to just assess the pain of why. So does your organization have any of these issues? Do you have a lack of clarity on business objectives? Do you have a lack of understanding on complex customer journeys? Do you have trouble aligning marketing and sales, customer service, operation, IT? Do you have legacy systems? Do you have like not enough budget or sometimes like too much budget so everybody thinks they can get everything in the kitchen sink? Or do you have a really hard time getting competent people to run the MarTech? So most of us have some kind of an issue like this, especially if our MarTech and our CRM are not integrated well together. And that is because we don't align our tech to serve our business processes. So we need to have our business processes, the strategy, precede what we decide to use on the tech. So when you're trying to decide what MarTech stack should I get, you need to ask yourselves, does it generate business value? Does it help me communicate with prospects in the way they want to engage? You know, if texting is how your doctors that are your prospects want to engage, you should engage in a texting platform. You know, does this help me advance the customer journey? Does it lead to revenue growth? And does it enhance the customer experience? So what you need to do is figure out what your business objectives are first, and then figure out what your MarTech stack should be.
Thank you, Amy. I appreciate that. I understand that as a COE leader, we go through this quite a bit. So now I'm going to go to Stella. And as a COE leader, what challenges you face when business leaders come to you and say, okay, here is the solution. And then they say, okay, go ahead and implement it. But you know, not all the time the solution is the right solution. How do you communicate and how do you articulate, oh, this may not be the right fit? And how do you challenge or work with your business leaders or even IT leaders?
Yeah, I think as Amy was mentioning, a trap that a lot of leaders fall into is to bring a solution and then try to identify the problem. And so what we try to do is try and ask what's the problem we're trying to solve. And in fact, I asked the question, is that the right problem to solve? Because we think that's the problem, but is that the right problem to solve? And that's like putting on your design thinking or human-centric design hat, right? And so what I do when the business comes and says, you know, hey, here's the solution, you know, just ask those clarifying questions to say, what would the audience look like? Who is the persona that's going to be impacted? What is the value that's going to be delivered? What is our internal value that's going to be delivered? So just kind of asking those questions. After that is done, we try to bring about the capabilities that the platforms have. And I think that's where we say, I try to, encourage my business owners to see if we have existing capabilities. And if it meets 80% of our needs, I think it's worth taking a look rather than buying just another tool and adding it to the stack, because you lose the capability of maintenance, integration, scalability. A lot of those things kind of add up when you keep adding newer and newer solutions or tools to your toolbox. And so we try to look at the problem, the personas that are impacted, the value that's being delivered, and then try to marry it up with the actual capabilities that the platforms have to offer. In our case, we have our CRM as Salesforce, we have Marketing Cloud, we have some business units that are in a different marketing tool, but we try to look at the capabilities that we already have and start from there. And then we define an architecture that helps meet in the middle.
Thank you, Stella. Jayneel, question directly. What is broken in the industry today especially between COE leaders and the business leaders? They have, each one has vision, but what is broken? Can you help us to understand, please?
Yes, absolutely, Velu, and thanks for that question. We do come across a lot of different center of excellence practices in general. What I'm seeing right now is that the COE itself is still maturing in the industry, especially when we start to talk about like the HLS industry, right? So like the concept itself is somewhat new. People are wrapping their head around it and how to successfully even implement it. I think the first and foremost thing is to have like a clear purpose of the COE, right? So it shouldn't just be like a gatekeeper, but rather something that enables. It's a body, a governing body that actually helps enable to bring some level of thought leadership and collaboration across the company. Understanding roles and responsibility and ownership is very important. Leaders need to know who's actually running with the ball. And leaders also need to lean on each other and trust one another. And I think that's also very important. So it's not just, passing the baton on, right? So COE is certainly not that, where you're passing the baton from one department to another, but really enabling that collaboration and thought leadership for the speed of delivery at the end of the day, which is, in my opinion, really the byproduct of doing all the other things right. So to answer your question in a short way, I think it's still maturing. I think people are finding their way there, but these are some of the pain points that they often come across along the way.
I thank you, Jayneel. What I have noticed that during the Dreamforce, I was asked to speak to a couple of clients, and then I talked to both of them. HLS industry, I'm in the HLS industry. Both of them, they are trying to figure out. They are a global organization. When I say global, they're indeed global. They have 60 plus countries Salesforce running. Even for one country, for us, I'm having a lot of challenges. But if you are thinking about 60 countries running Salesforce, putting a COE around it, it's even a bigger challenge. I think it's maturing. What is, in my opinion, broken is it's not defined 100% for any organization where you can really say that it is broken. No, thank you for your insight into it. JB, whenever I talk to you, the energy that you bring to us, at the same time, the amount of expertise that you bring in the marketing space, specifically on the Marketing Cloud, you are on the field working with clients. What do you see out there in the field between business and technology alignment? I don't know whether you work with the business mainly, work with technology, but what seems to be the major challenge when you work as a Marketing Cloud consultant?
That's a great question, Velu. Sorry about that. I have worked with multiple companies, and what I have observed is there is hardly any alignment between the business and the technology teams. Oftentimes, the business works as their own team and the technology works as their own team. And I have been part of the technology team, and I've also been part of the COE teams. Most often, the COE team is mainly IT driven. So it just included the technical people like the Salesforce administrator or the architect, the functional leads, but it never included the business team. So it's very important to have the business teams also involved, so we can get a buy-in, we can have them involved in the process, and they will know what each marketing initiative can bring the value to the table. And most times the business team, they just focus on one goal and they expect the goal to be delivered. They all look into the ROIs and other KPIs, but they don't rely on the efforts that the technical team is taking. So having them involved in the regular business meetings, weighing in their suggestions. So it's very important, and it drives the Center of Excellence team towards success. And in my experience, the teams who have the business teams also involved as part of the COE has seen much successful ROI rates and much successful implementations.
Well, thank you, JB. Appreciate it. And as once again, any COE leader who's going to be looking at this here, the lesson we are learning from these experts, make sure that the business and the technology is aligned. So when it comes to alignment, the simplest thing is to make sure that the business functions are fully understood by the business and by the IT. That's what we are talking about, alignment. Alignment means it's not about how you spend your money, whom you are going to be hiring, and who's doing what, how. No, it's all about understanding what does sales do, what does marketing do in terms of the functions. If they can understand, then I think that's one major hurdle that we can get through. So the next topic is state of marketing technology. So when JB and I Googled to look at how many thousand products we have, we came up with 5,000 plus marketing technology products out there today. And I don't know, Amy, that is true. But what we have seen, so instead of saying 5,000, let's say even 1,000 marketing technologies.
I actually have a stat, Velu. It's there, according to chiefmartech.com, there are at least 8,000 separate marketing technology solutions, up 13.6% from 2019.
Oh, good. So I do not have to climb my social security until 70 years old. I have enough job, which is a good thing. I really appreciate that. I will continue to learn from JV. So when you think about 8,000 marketing technology platforms, but even though there are so many tools out there, but there is companies buying other companies. The consolidation is happening, industry consolidation happening. As you all know, Elacqua, Marketo, they're all acquired by other companies. So the consolidation is happening. But if you think about the CRM, I don't know who has got the statistics, the number of CRMs out there, but at least Gartner has produced a report in 2021, as of September, there is only a handful of CRM. And then if any, whether it's a CRM or a marketing platform or tools, it has to be global, it has to be social, it has to be mobile. If you been to one of the Benioff's Dreamforce I've been attending for the last 15 years, one of them, he said the social, mobile, and global. I think that's when they introduced Chatter, Salesforce Chatter, if I remember correctly. But anyway, the bottom line is any platform that you have, it has to meet this minimum requirements. And not only meeting the minimum requirements, it's not even tight integration is a requirement. It's not an option, it's a requirement. It has to be integrated. So this is what I see in the industry. So the question I have for JB, what are the common challenges of having so many products? Can you think of some solutions? Like, why do we have the 8,000 products? Is it because a lot of venture capitalists there with a lot of money that they say, okay, let's start producing some tools? What do you see there? And can you think of some solutions?
That's a great point, Velu. There are currently 8,000 plus products in the MarTech stack. And even though with the consolidations happening, the rate of emergence of the new technologies is so rapid that it's increasing, ever emerging and ever increasing. And I think the reason is the emergence of new sales channels, like the social commerce or the live commerce or the mobile commerce, that nowadays we start doing selling the stuff on the WhatsApp, Instagram, and many other channels. So with these emergence of new channels, new technologies are also coming in that's adding to the marketing stack. There are many challenges that I have personally seen. I have once run into a client situation where they have they have purchased so many products, and then when it comes to analyzing the data and integrating the systems, it's a real challenge. And at that point of time, they looked for some external help and some advice on how to consolidate everything, how to integrate and get the analytics. So that's one of the main challenge when we are using new technologies. And also, the companies wants to catch up with the new technologies to go on all the channels that are available to deeply penetrate into the market. So they go and purchase the additional tools. With that comes the challenge of getting the talent. So the people who are working on those technologies are hard to find, and they should have an understanding of end-to-end marketing of all the tools. And also, I see that not every company uses all the tools to the fullest extent. They may have 100 number of tools, but they may be utilizing only 1% of that specific tool. And also, when they want to get a consolidated view of the customer, it is very hard because the data is sitting across different systems and different tools. Let's say they have communicated with a customer over email using one tool, maybe a HubSpot or a marketing cloud, and then they have sent the advertisements to the same customer over Advertising Studio. These are two different siloed systems. What they're communicating on the email is not relative to what they're communicating on the advertisements. So these are all siloed systems. There is no proper integration, and when they want to see the analytics data as a overall, then it makes it hard with these many products in place. So one recommendation would be to stick to the same product suite. So let's say we are using Marketing Cloud, maybe go with the Mobile Studio and Advertising Studio, which comes into the same suite and which are well integrated. The Sales Cloud is well integrated with the Marketing Cloud. Everything that happens in the Sales Cloud can be connected and act as a trigger to something that's happening in the Marketing Cloud. So one of the recommendations that I would give is to stick to the same product suite.
Right. So instead of buying a different tool from a different vendor, stick with one platform and start extending the platform. Is that what I'm hearing, JB?
Exactly, Velu. Salesforce has a better integration, maybe the Podot or the Marketing Cloud, all the Sales Cloud, Service Cloud, Commerce Cloud, Experience Cloud, all this data flows into the Marketing Cloud as well. And whatever is in Salesforce, it is accessible from the Podot or the Marketing Cloud. So it's more suggestible to stick to the same suite.
Thank you. I think that's a good selling point for Marketing Cloud. Thank you, JP. So, Amy, are there industry consolidation happening? What do you see? Is it growing, the number of products per year, or is it kind of shrinking?
Well, just like JB said, it is growing. And even though there are, like you said, acquisitions with Adobe acquiring Marketo and things, we're seeing it's like a sunburst, right? The CRM space is more mature. So you'll see like there used to be, I feel like so many others, and now they're continuing to be acquired, and there are, 3 or 4 dominant leaders. I predict the same thing will happen with the marketing MarTech space, but it hasn't yet. And so doing exactly what JB said, which is, taking a look at what integrates well with each other is absolutely essential. And I would also recommend doing something like she recommended with either like, let's say HubSpot or Marketing Cloud, where you can see the entire customer journey, because that's what it all goes back to, right? So you need a central place on your in your marketing platform where you can integrate the Google ads, you can integrate the email, you can integrate the social media, and you can see it all in one space. So when you go to the customer, you can say, okay, this prospect has clicked on 3 ads, they have downloaded an ebook, and my lead score is now at 50, which triggers my BDR to start calling. So in order for you to, have that kind of a flow with your customer journey, you have to consolidate it onto a platform.
Great, thank you. I think hopefully those who want to build new products, so they have to be careful. Let's not create more products. That's a lesson learned here.
It's time to consolidate. I agree.
Time to. Okay, Stella, how do you handle when business leaders bring you the tool, and how do you educate? I think this is a question I had asked, but one question I have for you. These platforms, when the tools are out there, I don't know whether in your organization you've seen, there are tools that are sitting there for a longer period. How do you make sure that you retire those products, and then rather than bringing new products, extending the existing product platform, and then how do you make sure that you are continuously delivering? You got to evaluate the products, right? That's one thing. And you need to make sure that your platform is doing what it's supposed to do. The question here is, how do you manage that technology stack and then you continue to deliver?
Yeah, and I think one of the things that I have as my focus area is being financially responsible. I think more and more organizations are starting to look at, IT as a percentage of cost of revenue. How much is IT spending? So there's just a lot going on in the industry around trying to balance and optimize the investments that we're making in. And so one of the ways that we try to do is do regular health checks on what's the total number of applications do we have. We try to do some portfolio rationalization. So there's a lot of retrospective and self-evaluation that we do from a tool management standpoint. And then the question comes to is like, are we really using it? Are we continuing to pay for it? What are the things that we can do from an next step standpoint? And then you go the whole 9 yards to eventually retiring it. The problem is, as you said, there is always a competing priority, right? They want the here and now. Hey, we need to get this done. And where does this tech debt get resolved? And so one of the things that we've been doing is trying to look at ways that we can embed that work in your day-to-day deliverables. And if that means trying to negotiate with our business to say, can we spend 20% of our time in addressing tech debt or retiring some of these old applications? Can we do like a innovation iteration or innovation sprint to do some of this work? So we will have to find ways to make it part of our day-to-day delivery. Otherwise, that will never get cleaned up. You're not going to be good stewards of the resources that you're spending. And in our case, it's healthcare. We would rather want to give back either, a dollar or a cent of that premium back to our members than have it with us. So I think there's a lot of reasons why to do it. It's just that we need to put on that hat when we're having these conversations with the business to say that this is also important. It's not just the sense of urgency of the here and now.
I hear you. I think you made a really good point, Stella, with respect to cost savings, especially in the healthcare industry. I'm sure every industry has the same challenge, but we need to be very mindful. As a top COE leaders, we have a lot of power. So it's more we learn ourselves and educate ourselves, then we can have a meaningful conversation. So JB, looking at hearing from Amy and JB and Stella, what is your advice for a COE leader to manage 8,000 products, assuming no company has got 8,000 products?
That's a good question, right? So Velu, obviously sheer volume, that's just unbelievable. Kind of going back to pretty much what the rest of the panelists said as well, because I think those were some really important points and bringing them to the COE. I think first and foremost, staying close to the business and understanding the business need is very important, kind of evaluating and cutting through the 8,000 products to really see what is really of value based on what the business need is. I think that's something Stella had mentioned earlier during our point one. Clearly understanding the marketing stack, tech overall, and how that supports the marketing strategy and its processes as well. It's extremely important. I think as JB mentioned as well, kind of staying in the same platform, there is value there because you're integrating seamlessly, and to kind of build on what Amy also mentioned is the overall end-to-end journey. So the support of the processes is extremely important as well. But additionally, what I would also suggest is from the COE perspective, because you're not only looking at the product, but you're also looking at, from the governance perspective, all the other things that go around it. So paying attention to supporting requirements, for example, such as data, storage capacity, and things that marketing collateral need to reside on. You have to kind of think about those areas as well. And then similarly, also paying attention to the tools that enable like team collaboration in marketing space, right? So because a lot of teams are storming and norming and they're developing these assets very quickly. You don't have like 2 months to create stuff now. You almost get 2 hours to create items. And so this speed and agility is extremely important. It comes from the center of excellence. It's really part of the center of excellence to help, you know, the agility be part of business every day. The other one thing I wanted to point out was let's not also forget about the other aspect, like such as approval processes, legal review, and things in our process as well. So it's great about running campaigns and doing things, but there are internal processes as well related to marketing that also connect to the CRM side that the COE should absolutely be aware of and be very mindful of when selecting these technologies as well. So think about the entire ecosystem and think about all the players in it, the processes, and all the touch points that come into play. And that basically starts to really paint a picture and narrow down the list from 8,000 to perhaps 8, which becomes a little bit more manageable to really go through.
I thank you, Jayneel. It's so mind-boggling when you have to look at all these tools. Some of them are legacy, some of them don't meet. I still have a product that I use today. It's a 20-year-old product. We use it for registration. That's part of marketing. So I hear you on that. So thank you for giving the insight. Let's move on to the next topic. How do you prepare your organization? So we talked about why is it so important to have the alignment between the business and the technology. We looked at the state of marketing technology, which has got a lot of products. So as a COE leader, we have a lot of challenges. So the important piece here is how do you prepare your organization? So if you think about this slide, the light blue has got marketing, the component, the dark blue has got sales component, and very well articulated in terms of why is it so important for a marketing technology and the CRM should work together. It's very, very difficult to split between, okay, you have your marketing technology and you have a CRM technology or the platform. But what I understood, what I learned in my experience, the platform is forcing these two teams to work very, very closely together. Whether people like it or not, the leadership is, whether they're doing it or not doing it, but the platform says, no, you got to work together. Campaign in Marketing Cloud is, campaign in Salesforce is a little different. But look at this, right? So you can't just split it. It's like a donut. If you have a donut, how do you split the sugar and the dough, the flour? So that is the kind of thing that I'm seeing in the industry. They're bringing us together. So now when we look at this, but many organizations don't do it. The marketing have a very limited conversation or with sales and vice versa. So if you don't have that kind of connection between the sales and marketing, as a COE leader, can you imagine working with these two teams? Because when you talk about CRM, it's a sales team and service team. When you talk about marketing, it is a marketing team. This is the three teams that you will be working as the COE leader. And you get frustrated as a COE leader. I am sure those who are going to be watching this one, they are excellent there. They don't have any issues, but assuming that I have a problem, maybe Stella has some challenge, you as Jayneel, you're advising your clients. So the employee experience is very important because these are maintained, CRM and marketing platforms are maintained by your employees. So if you see it, it has to be well integrated. It has to be connected. It has to be organized. If you don't organize your team, your platform, you are not having your experience with your employees. It's going to affect your end customer. So the question is, what do COE leaders need to do to prepare the organization? I start with you, Amy.
You know, COE leaders have such an amazing opportunity and also so many challenges, just like you said, you know, to be able to have not only the intellectual ability to wrap your minds around everything, but also the emotional intelligence to get everyone to work together. That's why Jayneel is our COE lead. He's fantastic. So kudos to all of you who are COE leads on this call and also watching, because it is such a challenge. But a few things that I think would be very helpful is, you know, first of all, like you said, align on the buyer's journey and set up really clear communication. So in the past, before we had Jayneel, we would be like talking past each other and not understand, meaning two different things about an MQL versus an SAL versus an SQL, and not having those defined. We have those defined now. We have them very aligned. And also establishing disciplined communication. Like, we shouldn't just be getting together when we have like a major problem. We should be getting together monthly to level up little by little by little, monthly at the minimum. The third thing that we need to do is, you know, integrate those metrics and models. Make sure everybody's using, if you're going to use a flywheel, use the flywheel across an organization. If you're going to use a sales funnel, use it across the entire organization. We need to be all, you know, aligned with the same processes. Make sure that your lead scoring is very well understood. Introduce those primary tools like Marketing Cloud. You can add on to things. You can add a texting platform or an eventable, you know, add to calendar button, but you need to have that central primary tool with everyone understanding them. Also, sharing and investing in the right databases, introducing joint metrics and targets, getting everyone aligned. Step 4 is to embrace new thinking. Make sure that all ideas matter, and, you know, your intern might have learned something that nobody else, your senior VP, may not know, and it might be the best idea. And then go above and beyond. Make sure that you connect with people, make them feel valued, and make sure that culture of ideas is foremost in your organization. And I think we'll have a lot better time aligning. So those are
Thank you, Amy. I appreciate that. Stella, you know, give us some practical challenges you face when it comes to preparing your organization between the marketing and the sales using Marketing Platform and CRM Platform.
Yeah, I think the biggest challenge is that we all try to evaluate our ROI in silos. You know, we're not looking at our consumer from an organizational standpoint and their journey. So I think the biggest challenge is to ask questions that tie it back to a company's strategic KPIs or performance indicators. And once you have that conversation, it becomes a lot more easier, because now it's not about what COE is saying and what the marketing team is saying. Now it's about, hey, what are our organizational goals? So in a way, you have to talk the talk that they can understand and tie that back to how value is not on how we deliver stuff, but how it is perceived by the end user. So, you know, we should be able to bring those connections and share that. So that's kind of one of the challenges, is because we measure success in silos internally, but we're not measuring success from the eye of the customer. The other challenge we also face is that one party is not ready yet. They're all in a different levels of maturity. So you're trying to work towards bringing them along together. You know, how do we say that one line of business and their roadmap needs to align with another roadmap? So trying to have those conversations to bring them together and say, okay, if you invest in this a little bit extra, your team that's coming right behind you can also gain the ROI from it. So then it becomes a lot more productive conversation. It's not about you just doing the heavy lift, but you're showing that it's very extendable and it's something that other teams can also use. So I think those are some of the connections that people don't usually make right off the bat. And that's where a COE comes in and tries to make those connections and say, invest once, but reap the harvest multiple times. So
that's great. I think so. What I understood from you, Stella, is help them understand why we are doing this way, you know, and that's a important piece. In order for you to know the why, you need to understand the business process as a COE leader. if you don't understand how the sales works, how does the marketing work, it is how do you educate the IT people who probably don't know the process fully, the business leaders who don't understand the capabilities of the platform. So it's just, as Jayneel said, we have an excellent opportunity as a COE leader. You learn the platform capabilities, understand the business functions, and then try to map and then help educate. Okay, great. So same question for JB and Jayneel. What's your perspective in terms of preparing this, or what's your advice to the COE leader for them to be prepared to address the challenges that they will face or they are currently facing? Anybody wants to go first?
I can go. So the first thing is to have a proper COE team identifying the roles and the responsibilities, and clearly identifying the design strategy, and also how the data flows between different systems and different clouds, especially when there are multiple clouds involved. And I really like the slide that you have included here, Velu. So it talks about the responsibilities of the marketing and the sales team. Marketing is like the top of the funnel and sales is like the bottom of the funnel. Whatever the marketing team works on, it serves as an input to the sales team. So sales team has to rely on the work that marketing has done, and the score or the grading that they have created on a customer is very important. So these two systems need to be connected. So for a COE, it needs to include the business line of businesses and the technical team as well, with at least 3 people. And then they define the strategy, how the data is used, and what metrics to be used between different systems, and what is the ideal way to approach a customer, when is the right time. And coming to the employees, I would say defining a proper training strategy. I have seen many clients making use of the trail mixes, trail tracker systems. So they create the trailhead modules that are more specific to their organization, but that are more relevant to the kind of work that they have in place. So they create the trail mixes and they refer to the new members who join the team. So they can go back and refer to those, and they can catch up to speed. That's the easiest way, that without reinventing the wheel and creating their own training modules, they can just go back to the trailhead and refer to that. So as per the employees, the training strategy is something needs to be defined.
Thank you, JB. Jayneel?
Wholeheartedly agree. As a matter of fact, I think JB actually hit on some of the points that I also wanted to kind of touch on, and so did Stella and Amy as well. I feel to walk before running, it's important as well. So starting with a pilot program, it allows you to actually really set up your organization, your team, your processes, what you're going to measure, how you're going to measure it, it kind of well. So, qualifying a quick win in a pilot and then rolling it out to the rest of the organization kind of really also builds that confidence across the organization that you really are going down the right track. Because as you just mentioned, and everybody mentioned on this call, that this infuses across the organization in many different ways, right? You're really talking about a tight collaboration with the sales team and the marketing team. And the end impact at the end of the day is really to the customer. So getting it right is important. Change management, extremely important to make sure that everybody is in the lockstep of things as well. And getting that singular KPI is extremely important to make sure you all are talking about the same numbers, and not numbers that the only numbers that you're comfortable looking at, right? Like you have to kind of align on what that common metric is.
Thank you, Jayneel. Appreciate that. And let's move on to the next topic here. How do you organize? So how do you prepare your organization? Why is it so important to understand the state of marketing technology? And then why do you have to align the business and the technology needs to align themselves? And then ultimately, we need to organize. As a COE leader, you have responsibility to organize the business management, support management, release, and capabilities management. So when we look at this particular artifact, governance is the key. If you don't have the governance, people will start doing things that they would do. They like to do rather than what they need to do. And we all need to know how to organize. I think organization I think this particular artifact gives you an idea as a COE leader. Okay, these are the ways to organize. But the organization is easier because it's in our control, but at least on the paper. But when it comes to working with your team to implement and help them understand capabilities management, putting your support team together, and putting a release plan together. So the biggest challenge that that I want to ask here, looking at this, we all understand it. I'm going to ask one question to everybody. Sales, this is in the DevOps is a big thing in CRM world or any application development. So in the marketing world, is there a DevOps concept? If so, how does it work? So others can learn from each other here, and then we can have our COE leaders to follow. So anybody wants to take this one, please go ahead. Is there a DevOps in marketing? Let's talk about Salesforce Marketing Cloud. How do we do DevOps in Salesforce Marketing Cloud? Who wants to go first?
As it is related to the Marketing Cloud, I think I can go first.
There you go, JB. Thank you.
You got a great point, Velu. So it's very important to have a strong DevOps in place. But with the Marketing Cloud, it's a challenge that we have. We don't have any sandboxes. There is no such thing as deployment, doing it in a sandbox and testing it out and then deploying it on the production. Every change that happens on the production instance. So that is where we look for some alternatives to mitigate the risk, to make sure that we're not doing some crazy things in the production. So we have recently seen a big company where an intern went out and sent an email, a test email to all the subscribers. So it's a big company, around like 1 billion customers or so. They received the email which wasn't supposed for them to receive. So things like this can happen. So it is very important to have a strong COE team where they have defined the best practices, the development best practices, what can be developed in the production instance, when it can be done, and what is the roadmap. So, and also it's very important to have the testing strategy in place. So if we are targeting to send an email to 1 million customers, maybe just send it out to 100 customers first and see how it is doing, look at the analytic data, and then send out the emails to the rest of the subscribers. That's one of the strategies that can be followed. So, and there are other alternatives available in the Marketing Cloud by using the BUs. The one BU can be dedicated for the testing purposes, and then by using the package manager, we can deploy those into the production instance. But again, that is limited. So the fallback option would be to have a proper plan in place to mitigate the risk and make sure that the team is aligning to the best practices.
Thank you, JB. So what I'm hearing is that there is not very formal DevOps process for marketing, but marketing is the one which brings the leads into the company. So that is a great opportunity. So anybody who wants to do a App Exchange package for DevOps, I think this is a great business idea. So I think that's going to be the next $1 billion product that you will be developing. So then Stella and Amy, the question is, when we look at the capabilities management, so I would like to go with the Stella capabilities management. You do a lot of things, many things you do. How do you think one should organize the demand from the business and continue to deliver? Because once you show them the capabilities, they want it. If you don't show it, it's okay. But if you show it, now we want it. How do you manage as a COE leader? If you don't show it, that means you're not innovating, you're not showing some value. If you show there is a problem, how do you manage that, the challenge that you have to continue to deliver, at the same time you have to show the value? are the capabilities? How do you manage that?
Yeah, I think we've gone through that journey ourselves internally, where a lot of the work was, kind of outsourced because we just didn't have those capabilities internally, either from a skill set, technology, process standpoint. And I think we've come a long way. So we've now taken on most of the work internally. I think the best way is to start small. Deliver, build credibility, build trust, and then keep going. You will learn, you will fall in the process, but at the end of the day, I think you are bringing along the business with you. The other thing is having that continuous conversation, closing the loop, like you innovate, you build, you release, you test, and then come back from a feedback standpoint saying we need to do more to kind of stabilize these things and continue to grow. So having that COE group that has business and IT and everyone in the same place helps us to actively evaluate the capabilities that we have, at the same time the roadmap and what's coming up next. So you're doing a continuous forward looking, but also you're looking current state and saying, okay, which of these things that we can currently deliver with your team size, with the platform capabilities, with the skill sets that we have on our team. So there's so many things that you want to take into consideration, but there has to be that tight alignment where you're almost thinking along with your business from a strategic standpoint, from a capital planning standpoint, to say what's coming down the pipeline. Are there things that I need to get ready? Is there something that I need to train my team so that when time comes, they're up and ready to deliver? So I think it's all part of a collaboration. There definitely has to be trust in that conversation, and then you go from there. Take something small, deliver, build your credibility, and you'll see work come through just fine.
Thank you for that advice. It's a practical advice. Yeah, there is no magic bullet here. So in the interest of the time, I'm going to go to the last slide. Ongoing support and audit. As a COE leader, you may talk the talk, you may say so many things, but at the end of the day, if you whatever you do as a COE leader, if you are not able to provide the compliance reporting and audit support, it's the end of the day. Many companies are, at least as far as I know, many COE leaders are accountable for the audit and compliance. Make sure that you're protecting. So I can proudly say that I worked with the company. We worked to have 300 admins to 9 admins or 8 admins. So that's part of the COE work. So can you imagine 300 admins? It's a CRM space. And we did the same thing in the marketing cloud. There, everybody you can't access, you don't know how to do it, make it an admin. So that's easy, right? The problem is solved. Now you can do whatever you want to do. But can you imagine having an administrator rights in marketing cloud or any marketing platform is very dangerous. It can disrupt your business, or it can even bring down your business, right? And people can take a data and export into an Excel sheet, put it on Google or website. That's it. You got your data there. So you don't need external hackers. You can do internal people to do that, but people generally don't do it, but you cannot have that. So I'm going to have one question for all of you, and we can wrap it up. The question I have here is, how do you, what tips do you have? At least one tip, or let's say stick with 2 tips from each one of you to the COE leader to make it compliant so that they can sleep in the night as a COE leader. Okay, if I do these 2 things from each one of you, now my job is done. So let me start with JB. Maybe Jayneel, I'll go with you this time.
Sure, thank you, Velu. So very good point, right? This is something that basically allows the company to really make sure, as you mentioned, sleep at night to make sure everything is running fine. I would say this: organize, prioritize, and then exercise, right? So you need to make sure you have strong organizational, a setup in terms of who's reporting into whom, how is the process overall organized, and what are going to be structures of approvals and things along the way. Prioritize. You're gonna have a floodgate open. You will need to have a structural way to also prioritize the work coming in terms of lean portfolio management or some other clear way of articulating to the team of how some of these decisions are being made on which ones to select first and which ones later, and how you're actually aligning that to the end result. And then exercise, have like a clear routine and process and steps that are easy to follow, but easy to also track and go back and track to see whether or not the right steps were followed, or which aspect of the process where the article or anything kind of got hung up, or the mistake was made. So it should be traceable as a result of it. So organize, prioritize, and then exercise, I would say.
Thank you. So Stella, 2 tips for a COE leader to be compliant, so they can sleep in the night.
Yeah, so I think similar to what Jayneel said, I would say identify your negotiables and non-negotiables. There are some things that are non-negotiable, especially in the healthcare space. So we have to be on top of that from a compliance audit standpoint. And I've seen companies go down the drain because they haven't done that. So I would say definitely identify your non-negotiables, get your security, compliance, risk, privacy folks, make them your best friends, figure out what's going on, your audit, make sure you're on top of it. Then there's the negotiables where who needs to have what profile, who needs to have what permissions within the organization. So those kind of are negotiables based on the business needs and process efficiencies. Figure out a win-win. It's going to be tough, but those are the conversations you'll not need to have. But there's like a negotiable space there. So I would say identify your non-negotiables, identify your negotiables, get on top of the non-negotiables like tonight, and the rest of it, figure a way out with roles, profiles, and permissions.
Great. I love that tips. 2 tips, negotiable and non-negotiable. JV, what 2 tips would you give it to the COE leaders like us so that we can organize and we can make sure that we are compliant and we can produce audit report?
So the first thing I would say is whatever we're doing, try to tie into the specific business requirement, and that makes sure that the individual teams that are involved are all aligned. And the next one is track everything that you're doing, and also understand why we're doing and what the value it brings in, and if it is continuously try to evaluate and see if it's providing value. If not, try to get rid of that, or if it's providing value and how to improve that. It's a continuous process.
Thank you so much. Amy?
My final 2 tips are to get into the details and know how everything works, so you know who needs access to what. I've had a lot of issues in the past where sales ops and marketing ops people don't give me enough permission to be able to do my job, or they give somebody too much permission. So I would say that if you really know what each of these tools does, then you will know who you need to give permission to. And the second one is to create an environment for learning and a safe space where if somebody makes a mistake, they don't feel like they have to hide it. That's a big issue in compliance, because if you make people fear if you've made a mistake, then it's hard to track things down sometimes. So those would be my 2.
Thank you so much. All right. So Q&A, we are out of time. So I'm not going to take any questions from anyone at this point in time. If you have questions, you can reach out to these folks directly. Amy, Jayneel, Stella, JB. Thank you for all joining. And anyone has any questions, please, they're all on LinkedIn. They're not hiding anywhere. They're real people. So you can reach out to them, ask them the questions. If you have any questions, you are welcome to reach out to me via LinkedIn. And I want to thank each one of you for joining today, especially on Friday evening. JB, thank you for keeping up all night to attend this one. And have a wonderful weekend. And I look forward to seeing you in our next roundtable discussion.
Thank you.
Pleasure to be here.
Hello, appreciate it.
All right, have a good day.